Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the transfer portal window is open and we brace for what unexpected adventures are soon to come. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 if you win or lose. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Happy portal season to all who celebrate. The window is open as of today. We got a whole lot of football to dive into. We'll get to the portal and Joey Maguire's thoughts on that in just a second. Also want to hear from Texas Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter on all the shoes that he has to fill on his side of the ball, and offensive coordinator Zach Kittley on looking ahead to what the intended offensive scheme or identity could be in the fall. We know, just looking back to last year, that sometimes things can change as weeks roll by, and you got to be adaptable. But we'll take a listen to Coach Kittley and what his intention is for what things will look like on his side of the ball coming up in just a moment. But Chris, let's go ahead and take a listen to Red Raider head coach Joey Maguire talking about intentions, or maybe lack thereof, as we get into another portal window. Here's Coach Maguire.
I hope I'm not active at all. There's always, when we get through next Saturday, exactly where we're at. We feel good, but I'd really love to take this team into camp and get ready to go play this season. We feel depth-wise that we've created a lot of depth, and what's crazy is we're out here and I'm saying we have a lot of depth, and Joseph Adederay is only getting to do Indy. Isaac Smith does Indy, but he only does it by himself. Chapman Lewis, he tweaked his knee on a big interception, but he's doing good and he'll be back. You don't have Jalen Conyer on offense yet. You don't have Micah Hudson on offense yet. I'm probably missing somebody, but we feel like we've got a really deep team. So I'm hoping that we don't have to be active at all. But the world we live in right now, y'all all saw it. There were teams in the Sweet 16 that got beat in the Sweet 16, and there were guys that were on those teams that were in the portal the next day. I don't know if there was anybody in the Final Four, but I'm sure there was, and so it's going to be interesting what's going to happen April 16th.
A similar answer to what I'd like to give when someone asks, you got a big weekend planned? I hope I'm not active at all, is typically the response, Chris. We can hope in one hand and, something else in the other and see which one fills up first, though. So what are we anticipating as the always interesting and sometimes unexpected portal window is upon us again?
I think people nationally are expecting this to be extremely active. Like, raise your eyebrow, like, whoa, some of these things. Now, maybe that's being oversold. We won't know until we know, until it plays out. I think from Joey's standpoint, I think we have to define active. He didn't say not active at all, period. He just hopes that he's not much, kind of deal. But tell me a portal window that involves football and basketball where you haven't had, movement since this stuff began, two and a half years ago.
Yeah, I'm not going to recall one.
It doesn't exist. And so, and right now, you've got Cam Watts, who that's a sneaky, again, you can dig in here a little bit and kind of purse through this stuff, and you can't keep everybody. But it's like, man, a guy like Cam Watts, he could have helped you next year. Yeah, was he kind of third team type corner? Sure, but look at who your first and second team corners are, and then you think about all the special teams that a guy like Cam Watts did, and the fact that I think in one game last year, you were so depleted, Cam Watson actually played a little bit of star position for you. And he's been in your system for 3 or 4 years. He's an older guy, but he wants to go play in his last year. And I think he kind of felt like, I'm not going to get much here. But don't gloss over that. It's like, no big deal. Not going to hurt you. Well, maybe, but maybe it will, I'd like to have the equivalent out there, that was on your roster. Like a veteran DB with some experience and some position flex. Well, that's what just walked out the door. You see what I'm saying? So, but you're going to have some activity here. I just think that's as Joey said, that's the world we live in. You're going to have some guys, and I try to look at like hotspots. Where have either transfer guys come in and immediately taken people's positions, or where have like younger guys specifically come in and taken people's positions? And I think like Cam Watts, for example, Devin Cromwell, and Mo Horn, Jalen Peoples, guys like that. Braylon Lux was already an incumbent, but some guys kind of passed Cam Watts up, Cromwell included. Okay, so Watts is like, man, he just got here. He's already passed me, so I think you kind of see the writing on the wall. Look at what Cam Dickey has done at running back. Okay, he's already, second team, third team-ish. If I'm Anquan Willis, I'm Bryson Donnell, I'm going, and maybe they're, you never know what people's goals are. Maybe it's like, man, I'll continue to be like a really good special teams guy and try to help my team. Look at, you see what they're already saying about like Cameron Brown and Will Hammond. Okay, and then there's Jake Strong. You hope not. You need all these guys, especially when you have a quarterback that's been shut down. Look at the offensive and defensive lineman that came in here and immediately like moved to the top of the depth chart. I would also say like look at a guy like what was our big boy Maurice Rodriguez, who I think he came in with a lot of fanfare, and you hadn't heard a lot of chatter about him. Unless I've missed it, and he's an enormous individual, but he came in with a ton of like pomp and circumstance, and we struggled and scratched the claw to get him. And we talked offensive line yesterday. Did Joey mention his name? Did Clay Maguire mention his name? Not that I heard.
No.
What's that tell you? So does a guy like that just got here go, man? I don't know. I don't know, but you're going to get some movement, and with that, you'll get movement coming in too. I just firmly believe that. But I don't, and you could get a surprise. You could get a guy that you're like, God, well, how did we lose him? You just don't know in this day and age. And that's the scary thing.
Yeah, Rodriguez would be a really interesting one to see on the move. He has been here for, 15 minutes or so. And I thought we heard from Clay Maguire, him mentioned second behind Sterling Porcher, I guess, last week. And I know this is just like spring camp.
And maybe he did. I just glossed over.
I only remember that, though, Chris, because it frightened me. Because I'm like, okay, we got newcomer and then super raw newcomer at our left tackle. And those are the guys that we're maybe leaving spring camp with. Not that would be ideal. But, yeah, it's not going to be – it would be shocking to see it be an inactive portal window for Texas Tech. And you're right. You have – if you followed, other programs here or there across the country, some are bracing for extreme impact as far as what they're going to experience within this window. Could we speculate, though, and maybe I'm not anymore after what you just said, because it kind of seemed like you got a basket full of possibilities there, but I was kind of wondering, could it be one of the less active, not inactive, but maybe one of the less active for Texas Tech that we've seen in some time, but maybe I'm wrong on that. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. And you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs, slam dunks, and all in between, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what's the holdup? Get in the mix now on all the action by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet. an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode brought to you by Monopoly Go, and we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime of the big game, and the scoreboard's not looking too good. You're feeling low. You're not sure you or your team are going to be able to pull out a win, and that's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. And you can do just that with the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies and tell them all about it whenever you're kicking their butts. You can also play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, or charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go today for free in the App Store or on Google Play. Not inactive, but maybe one of the less active for Texas Tech that we've seen in some time, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
I think that's fair. I probably would tend to agree with that. I think we just have to define that. Like, what does less active mean exactly? Because you could have, I mean, is it going to shock me or would it shock you if you had 5 to 8 portal entries? I mean, it wouldn't to me.
No, I guess not.
You know, like I think if you got over like 10, I'd be like, okay, was not expecting this.
Well, and I would have to say 5 to 8 from kind of the Cam Watts range of the depth chart, if that makes sense. So maybe not that shocking there, but, you know, depth pieces or frontline guys, that would blow me away. And like we were just talking about quarterbacks, I don't care if I'm number 6 on the list. Have you seen what we've done with quarterbacks the last few years? Like anybody can get it. It's kind of the motto, I guess, in that room. But I know that's probably not something they're thinking in their shoes. Actually, it's easy to say that.
And I don't want to plant that seed per se. I mean, I think Jake Strong was I think he's one of the ones that threw one of the touchdown passes over the weekend. You just point to like young players that start making a lot of waves early. And then you look at who, you know, is in front of them or was in front of them, and those are natural dots to connect. You know, defensively, you know, if I was like a really young, maybe that's the wrong word. If I was an older linebacker on the interior, I would say, okay, this Ben Roberts dude, he's going to play for, you know, several more years. Now they're talking to me about John Curry and how he's like basically second team on the depth chart. You know, and then you've got Jacob Rodriguez, who has another year after this one. You've got Bryce Ramirez. I mean, that you know, interior linebacker spot is pretty darn entrenched. The future, all that. And so if I was like, you know, way behind on that depth chart, you may go, you know, okay, you just don't know what people's goals are. Are they more than willing to stay here and work and grind and try to, you know, I'm not giving up, man. I'm going to keep pushing. My time will come. Somebody may get dinged up. I'm going to be a special teams ace. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, and you need all those things too. You just look at this didn't used to be an option for people. Right. Now it very much is an option for people, and people are very much using that option. And so that's why I'm saying, like, if you're trying to, like, you know, kind of look at your roster and kind of identify, okay, you know, what may be shifting here, those are some natural positions to kind of like look at, but we'll see. It opens today, and I think it closes on, I think it's the last day of the month, and I think maybe is there 30 or 31 days in April. But it's the it's I can, while we're sitting here talking, I can just, you know, look that up. And again, you have to be in by then. You could still be taking visits or doing your thing well into May and all that if you've gotten into the portal. But at that point, like when that window closes, at that point, coaches can go, okay, this is the team that I'm taking into the summer and the fall. Because the next time the portal opens is going to be like around December, whatever they changed it to, like early December. So that this is why they shrunk this particular window, just to give everybody some sanity here.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. It's working well.
but here's the other thing. Here's what I'm intrigued by. Okay, we've talked about what may be outgoing. I'd be willing to bet that you're gonna try to. I don't know if the right word is upgrade, but I bet you're active there on. Come on, we could use you. Offensive line. I'm not going to rule out a quarterback here, man. You got your quarterback shut down, okay, right now. Let's hope he's okay. I'm just, and then you got a bunch of guys with no experience. I mean, if there's somebody out there that made some sense that, had 1 or 2 years left, I would not rule it out. Do you backfill if you lose a running back or two? Do you backfill that, or do you just let your signee that's coming in kind of fill that up? I wouldn't be shocked if you try to find something else out there on the offensive line. Okay, that maybe is a help to you. Same with DB. Even if these are like 1 year guys that you're like, hey man, we just want to help you get us through the season. Be a special teams guy, be an insurance policy. You could apply that to QB, to DB, to running back, to offensive line. I mean, again, this option didn't used to be available. Now it is. I think you have to use it as such, and you never know what's out there. But if what is going to happen, like a lot of these national pundits seem to think, based on their conversations with coaches, look out.
Man, it was hard enough throughout all of human history to commit to something, stick with it through a hard time. And even if it doesn't turn out to be exactly your ideal scenario, still grinding through that. And there was some, I think, fruit that is bared from somebody enduring that kind of process. It's been hard enough to do that when you're growing up, I'm growing up, through all of human history. And I just wonder now, are we totally removing that component from so many young people? And we're just talking about college sports and student athletes right here, but I think there's a lot of that elsewhere as well, where it's cut bait and switch tail time immediately when you have the opportunity, Chris. And that is probably a different podcast that should have that conversation, but it's an interesting thing to consider, because there is something to be said about sticking with something again. And it may not mean that you become the starting running back or whatever, but sticking with something and kind of grinding through a challenge or something not going the way that you would want it to. And it builds character, or whatever you want to say is coming out at the end of that process. There's fruit to be made from that. But at least in these types of scenarios, it seems like that thought's kind of out the window. And we've just, given a warm embrace to, well, yeah, obviously if you didn't get to where you wanted to immediately, then yeah, why don't you just go ahead and try something new? Pull the plug. It's a strange new world, man.
We sound like the old guy here, or the get off my lawn guy. Yes, but I'm with you. I mean, I think that, perseverance and the grass is not always greener. I mean, all the things that you just said are, you're dead on. Like you're teaching people not to sit there and work hard in some ways. Like, hey, I want to widen home plate. I want to make it easier on myself. So I'm going to go somewhere else where it is easier for me. And, but.
Or you think it will be easier, by the way.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. That's why, there's some limitations on this. Like, hey, you get a freebie transfer. After that, you need to, you can pull the plug one time, but after that, you can't do anything until you graduate. Then after you graduate, if you've got eligibility left, you can go do what you want. But, I mean, and having said that about like young people making decisions, it needs to be said too that in some cases these decisions get made for young people,
sure,
by the adults in the room going, "Hey, man, it's just not working here." Like we just, these guys that we just brought in here, they're just better than your group. Sorry, but good luck to you. If there's anything we can do for you, let me know. That happens too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
That happens in the real world too.
And that's the part that I hate. It absolutely is. And we all know it. But it's like you just wish that there was some wholesome innocence left with like some of this college athletic stuff. But that's just kind of seeped out snuck out the back door, several years ago, and it's just getting worse. Yeah.
About 1935. I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, so we'll just kind of see what's happening. I mean, as you and I are sitting here talking, I'm seeing all these portal entries, not for Texas Tech yet, but a lot of SEC and Big Ten from some big name programs. And so this is just going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And here's the wild thing.
First, today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. And when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else, and it does it all while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within only 24 hours. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
You're going to have a lot of these spring games going on. You had some last weekend. Okay, this doesn't apply to that. But there's several spring games that are this weekend, Texas Tech's included. I think you can have portal visits there. Like, I think you could have – it's like a different kind of recruiting tool. Whereas before it was like, hey, well, we're going to bring in some juniors and, give them a glimpse of what we do and try to get them signed this next fall. No, now you're bringing in – the whatever from the American Athletic Conference or the SEC or the whatever, that you're got him on campus to see what you're about, and like, hey man, you want to join the team like tomorrow and play like for us like right now. That's wild to me too. Like, we're talking real-time recruiting visits.
Yeah, no question. It's a different era in so many different ways. Some that maybe even a fan isn't quite processing like that, but is obviously taking place and being processed by the program. Speaking of filling shoes, let's stick with that theme, because Texas Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter has more than a few on his list to be filled in 2024. Let's take a listen to Coach DeRuyter on that.
Well, every year you got to replace guys. I mean, that's just the nature of college football, and as a staff, you got to do a good job developing guys. I think our assistants have done a really nice job, particularly up front. We're losing 2 guys that had a heck of a lot of experience, and Jay Boog and Tony, and our young guys, I think, are really, really talented, and they're starting to step up. The older guys, Quincy and Duda, are having a really good spring. They've improved their game, but you've got to have depth to play, and we feel pretty good about 5 or 6 guys right now.
I'm really starting to think, Chris, and kind of wonder about, specifically on the defensive side of the football, is this going to be a year where we really begin to see some Joey Maguire era recruiting impact kind of bubble up to the surface?
Yeah, I think you've read about the recruiting classes. We've also gotten into a lot of we're trying to get into the portal to bridge the gap, to let our kids grow up a little bit and all that. But I think really at a lot of places you're going to start to see this puffed up recruiting really start to push through.
Yeah.
I think much more so at some of these spots on defense, though. Yes, I think you're still waiting a bit up front on both sides of the ball. You may get some glimpses of it. Okay, I think a year from now we're having a much different conversation. But like right now up front, you're still. That's why you've added the 2 DTs and the 3 or 4 offensive linemen that are older. All that. But as far as like, linebacker and corner and safety and some of these D linemen. And that's the difference in like defense too, and like some of the offensive positions in that, like at quarterback or like a running back or offensive line, there's a lot of times there's not much depth from the standpoint of who gets to play in games. one quarterback mostly gets to play. Once we get the offensive line set, that's pretty much what we want. Maybe we sub in a few guys. A running back, okay, we know who's going to get the bulk of the carries, but there's a little bit of depth there. But it doesn't go anything past like a third guy, okay? Defensively, though, the beauty of that side of the ball is Tim will play. He'll play 20 to 25 guys on a Saturday afternoon, and that's why the replacing guys is so key. But you use a lot of your depth, and you need a lot of your depth too to get through games as fast paced as some of this is, and you don't want to have to play the Tony Bradfords and Jalen Hutchings for the entire game, or you get diminishing returns on guys like that whenever you have them out there too much, as good as they are.
Yep.
So I think that you're right. There's a lot of depth and excitement about some of the, not just the brand new guys, but the guys that have been here a year or two. Like Jalen Peoples is a good example. Mo Horn is another good example. These could be two of your top corners, and they've been on your team for the last couple of years, but nobody really has talked about them much. But it's now their time, and it sounds like they're doing a lot with it.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of the newcomers as far as transfers, obviously, and things like that you got to work with. But given how exciting it seemed on the recruiting trail for Joey Maguire and his staff, I know that takes some time, obviously, to get to a position to make an impact. But it feels like while we had some of those really young guys on the field last year and making some impact, this feels like one of those seasons where really you begin to feel it maybe on a more consistent basis or more so en masse. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of the football, Texas Tech offensive coordinator Zach Kittley trying to figure out several things, trying to figure out what we're going to do up front on the offensive line, trying to figure out what you're going to do as far as rounding out depth with your group of running backs, and of course also trying to figure out what exactly will number 2 be whenever the fall kicks off as far as Baron Morton's health is concerned. But another broad topic, Chris, is trying to figure out what is the identity of a Texas Tech offense under Zach Kittley. Obviously, when you're using your third quarterback, you're being forced to adjust and adapt and maybe not necessarily doing exactly what you wanted to be able to do as far as scheme and things like that are concerned. And we saw last year kind of some adjusting on the fly. I think through the first 2 weeks, would Taj Brooks have like 20 carries or something like that? Then he goes on to have an astronomical number as you really figure out what your bread and butter is. And Coach Kittley was talking about that recently, what he would like to see the offensive identity be in 2024, but of course also what the season could call for once it gets going. Here's Coach Kittley.
We're going to have to adapt as the season goes along, with injuries and some of those things. But I think you're going to see what we'd like to be more of is some of those last games we played there. TCU, UCF, Cal, probably somewhere in that mold of where we want to be. I mean, I think the goal is going to be, still try to get the Taj the ball 20, 25 times, somewhere in that range. And then again, try to find our matchups in the season of, this week it may be more, hey, these guys don't play the tight end well, or hey, these guys leave the slots on island against safeties that don't cover as well. And so, but going to continue to, mix up formations and personnel groupings. And again, we're trying to find, with our new tight ends and, with Taj, Taj is 100% healthy, but we've limited him a little bit in spring. Got to make sure we've got him ready to go August 31st. So trying to find out what these other young backs can do too, and find their strengths. And when they go into the game, what are their runs that they like, and what are we good at blocking up, some of those things.
I don't know how many times I was yelling from the stands last year, they're leaving the slots on an island against safeties that don't cover well. Somebody take advantage of that. So he took the words right out of my mouth there. It's unfortunate, man, that we really haven't seen him got to just open up the playbook. Hey, this is what I want to do. And I say unfortunate. I mean, you've had some decent seasons, but there's no way to really feel like, at least in my opinion, as the fan, that you've gotten to spread your wings and fly as you would like to.
And, I mean, it's fair to wonder if you'll get to see that,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just like there's just an unknown here. I hate it. I wish and again, a lot of us have PTSD from just the past, I don't know what, 10 to 12 years. There's some glimpses in there of healthy QB and all that. But again, you got a bunch of young kids with no experience, and you got one that has been shut down. And so with that, yeah, we can sit here and go, it's going to be fine. Don't sweat it. Well, what makes you say that out there? If you're saying that, what makes you suggest that it's all going to be fine? Because it hasn't been for a good long while, actually. And so if you're Zach Kitley, you're talking about identity here. I think he could be like, in some ways, he could be like palms up, like, I don't know. You know what you have in Taj Brooks. Do you really know what you have on the offensive line yet?
No.
Do you really know what you have at wideout yet? I mean, no, you hadn't seen Micah Hudson practice yet. So there's some things that and some bread and butter that you will incorporate and all that. But I think this is a tricky conversation to have, especially in mid-April with all the question marks that you still have. Even as we get, we wrap up spring this week, I think that those questions will remain, into the offseason. And so anyway, it's a frustrating topic for me, just because I think that teams that don't have an identity sometimes try to find out who they are. That takes time. Sometimes you can lose games in the process of. Maybe this is what kind of happened last year. But then it gets altered, and you're morphing and adapting and changing because of the injuries keep coming at you. And you're like, well, and then you figure out, well, you know what? We're pretty good at this. We're not good at that. And it just takes time. The quicker you can find that, the better off you are. Are you going to get some of these answers very quickly here on your O-line, on Barron, on, some of the stuff? I don't know. It sucks, but we'll see what we get. Hopefully it's just thumbs up and good news all the way around. And you can run the ball. Okay. You can run the ball because your running back doesn't go down easy. But again, you don't necessarily know how good your offensive line is or what they can do per se on, a game-to-game basis just yet.
No, and that's exactly what I was going to finish with was I know a lot of us could probably feel like, well, at least at the end of the day, we know we can just go back to feeding it to Taj Brooks. And you sort of do, but as we have highlighted consistently on this program, you are playing with fire if you think you're going to go right back to that recipe you had a season ago and give him the load that he had a season ago, and the health luck is going to be the same and all that stuff. So you would like to have some alternatives, even though still this is a very much run the damn ball kind of podcast. So we'll emphasize that. But, man, again, playing with fire if you got to do it to the extent that you did a season ago, man.
And I'm more than happy where it's like if we wake up in 3 months or 4 months and go, we did all that worrying for nothing. I'm okay with
Absolutely.
that.
No
I'm
problem
totally, I'm good, man. Like, hey, I probably took days, years off my life with all that worry and stress and all that, but it's okay now. I'm totally good with that. So I hope that you have no reason to worry, but I think you're naive if you just think everything is like good to go, man.
Hey, it's April 16th in Lubbock, Texas. We're talking tech football. You think there's not going to be some worry or skepticism involved in these conversations? It is natural. It's Red Raider instinct. All right. Great stuff today, Chris. And we're keeping an eye on that portal window as we roll through the week. So keep it locked here. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you miss nothing. And we'll be back to do it again on the other side. Looking forward to it, man.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I would keep an eye on things quite a bit today, tomorrow-ish, and we'll see what happens and be here to talk about it when it does or when it doesn't, I guess. But
that's a possibility, yeah.
That's right. Keep hope alive, everybody.
We appreciate you guys being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.